guys, it's definitely again, and this is going to be a tutorial where the technical sort of meets the creative aspects of production. I'm going to go over how to make a sick ass sub bass that you can hear on cheesy speakers like laptop speakers and whatnot. And I'm kind of overhyping it right now. You can't really hear it. Well, you should be able to hear it on cheaper speakers. Not every speaker, but that's the objective. Speakers where you can't hear a sub, technically, you can hear this type of sub. But the answer to this whole, how do you make your sub sound on, laptop speakers? It lies in creating harmonics consistent with what would be created from a fundamental frequency that is below the sub region. So like in the 80 or 100 hertz and below region, if you have a fundamental frequency down there, like a saw, and you have a saw wave, for instance, the frequencies, the harmonics will be generated at a certain rate that will suggest that there's a sub. It's a psychoacoustic effect that where if you have upper harmonics that suggest a sub fundamental note, it'll sound to you like there is a fundamental note even though there isn't, the fundamental note being the sub bass. Yeah, that's pretty much the technical part of it, and I'll show you how to do it now. And you can do it in 3x oscillator. I'm going to use that, but you can make it in any soft synth. I use 3x oscillator right now just to kind of show FL Studio users how to do it. And there's plenty of tutorials out there similar to this, but none go into the whole extra step of harmonic creation or whatnot. But I'll show you a couple ways to do it, and also show you where to place it in the stereo field. So first, we got our sub. That doesn't sound very subby. You guys might know. Most people don't realize that sine waves, when they start out producing, they don't realize that sine waves, these really boring guys that that sound sort of like you're playing the organ when you hit keys on the keyboard. They don't have any harmonics. They're really boring. What you don't realize is they make really good sub basses because they're just clear fundamental tones. Let me demonstrate here. I'm going to turn off these two. I'm going to turn this down, and here. Ooh, that's good. Let's see where that is. That's about 50 hertz. That's pretty low. That's good. But yeah, that sounds really, full and very subby. It really kind of shakes your chest a little bit. If you tried to play that through my laptop speakers here, you would fail. They would not come through. The reason being is my laptop only produces down to about 100 hertz, and your laptop is probably even higher than that. Your iPhone and iPod speakers are usually higher than that as well. So how do you make it come through? Add harmonics. For instance, this saw wave, and we're going to turn the coarse down, and then we're going to adjust the volume to taste. So you can definitely hear the saw kind of peeking through there. There's, I would say, too much top end information. So I'm going to go into the instrument properties. I'm going to go select the low pass filter, and then I'm going to dial down the cutoff a little bit. Ooh, that's pretty sweet. If you watch up here, you're gonna see that there's the regular sine wave. But sort of on top of that sine wave, there's a the sine wave is made up of little smaller lines. Those are the harmonics that are generated with the saw wave. Let me play it again. Yeah, that's good. Maybe a little bit less. There we go. That's just about perfect. Then let's take a look here. I'm gonna turn off the saw right now, and you'll see before what the sub looked like on the parametric EQ. Note that there's no red up here. Technically there's aliasing. Can't really see it though. That's a whole nother thing. So yeah, there's that. And then let's add some harmonics. I'll play it for you and then I'll dial it in. So you can see that there's little tiny red lines. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it through my monitors, but I don't know if you'll hear it through my microphone. But there's definitely a difference. You can see that there's a difference. And this type of sub bass you could hear a little bit easier on crappier speakers that don't reproduce subs very well, because you're creating harmonics based on a sub that they probably can't hear on you probably can't hear on a cheap speaker set. So yeah, pretty neat little trick. That's sort of the crude way of doing it, is just turning down the filter and using a saw wave. Right? There's another way you could do it. Create some harmonics. You can use Fruity's soft clipper. The soft clipper is kind of neat. It's sort of what they wanted to. FL Studio wanted to create. They didn't want to lose any of the analog warmth that you would get with a analog system. Digital is very sterile. You'll hear quite often. So to recreate analog warmth that you get when you almost kind of clip a little bit in the analog domain, they had the soft clipper here that kind of emulates that. Not to the T, but it works decently well. It creates some basic harmonics, and let's take a look. Or should I say take a listen? Yeah, there we go. As you notice, when I turn the soft clipper off, you just have your sub frequency down there like I was telling you about. And then if you turn it on, check out the harmonics it creates. That's kind of neat. Yeah, so that's one way you can create harmonics, is just by simply getting the Fruity soft clipper. Just crank the threshold down, and then you can adjust the volume with the post sum. And there's some stuff online about the soft clipper. Kind of interesting how it works, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Neat little thing. So the next one you can use, of course, who would have known we were just gonna open up my favorite plugin of all time, the the Ozone Exciter. And we're gonna crank this lower part right here. So you can even check out up here. Here's the regular sine wave without anything on it. Okay. Okay, you kind of see that, but I basically adjust the amount here, which means the amount of harmonics created. At full, you can see it kind of does a little bit of a square wave up top. You can definitely hear a difference and see the harmonics up here. Let's try it on the parametric EQ. Yeah, you can see a lot of harmonics, almost kind of square-like. Here's a triode. That is just brutal. That's great. Okay, so yeah, that's another way you can create harmonics. If you drop, well, for the triode, drop about $1,000 to get the software. Definitely worth it. Definitely awesome. And you can use the exciter for almost anything you want too. Pretty much tightens everything up. But yeah, that's another way you can create the harmonics. You could also use any sort of distortion plugin, but you don't want to get too high of a gain, or else it'll sort of take away from the subbiness, like I was telling you earlier. That's why I use that filter to filter out all that high-end stuff. Another thing you want to do with your 3x oscillator, or excuse me, your soft synth, or your any kind of sub bass, is you want it to be mono. I already did this, beforehand, but you're going to start out with a fader with an insert that looks like this. And this is your stereo separation knob. Here's your pan knob, if you weren't already aware. This is more open, this is more mono. For this one, I just crank it all the way mono. That way you have a totally mono sub, which is nice. If you have a totally mono sub, you don't have to worry if you're playing your stuff in clubs. Clubs tend to have they usually sum things up into one mono, and if things phase cancel each other out, your bass, if you already have it mono, won't have that problem. So that's always a good thing, especially when you're playing in a club or a big system. What else? That's basically everything for the subs. Yeah, another neat little trick you can do. I don't want to call it a neat trick. It's not a trick. It's a mixing tip. I like to really carve the frequencies out of things when I'm mixing. So, for instance, I'll filter a light filter on the high end. Just with the 3x oscillator, it gets rid of some of the aliasing, or kind of hides it at least. But it's not necessary. I'm just picky when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, essentially any kind of distortion plugin, or a tube emulator, or an overdrive type of plugin, those will all work to create harmonics on a bass. But on a sub, just a light, little bit of harmonics will do the trick. Max Bass by Waves, that's another great one. Definitely worth demoing if you haven't already tried it out, or if you don't already have it. But yeah, it's a good one. I use it on my kicks a lot. What else do I use on my kicks? I'll use the exciter on my kicks, just to make it kind of punch through on lower quality systems. But yeah, that's what you're wanting to do when you're mixing, is you want your sound to your tracks to sound really good on any possible system that they might be played on. So you want to make sure you add some bass harmonics. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching. I would appreciate like and a subscribe. Check out my music in the description, as always. I'm thinking about doing some videos in a little bit about the psychology of producing music, or just music in general, being creative, that type of thing. So hit me up with any ideas. More technical stuff, I can always do that. I like doing that. That's my stuff. Let's see. Yeah, that's all I got right now. So yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more good stuff. Leave a comment on what I should do on the next episode. Thanks.